All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Atlanta Falcons in today's video. Happy Friday. The Atlanta Falcons are currently 3-2 after last night's thrilling NFC South divisional matchup. 36-30 win against a really good team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on a short week. The Falcons, folks, are 3-2 now. All three of their wins have included game-winning or game-tying scores in the final minute of regulation or overtime. Kirk Cousins passed for a career high and franchise record 509 yards, along with 4 touchdowns and 1 interception to give Atlanta its 3rd win of the season. It's crazy how they're winning these games and also kind of losing these games. I feel like Atlanta could easily be 4-1 if they'd taken down, like they probably should have, Kansas City a couple of weeks ago. They could be 2-3 if a couple of things didn't go their way tonight, but that was just a really good Thursday night football game. His previous high with Atlanta through the first month of the season was 241 in the week 2 win against the Philadelphia Eagles. But this is why you signed Kirk Cousins. This is, drafting Michael Penix has been the talk of the entire summer for the Atlanta Falcons. It still is the talk for non-Falcons fans is, why'd they draft Penix? And every week as we progress, it's becoming more and more clear. First off, Kirk Cousins coming off a torn Achilles. He looked so much better in week 5, mobility-wise, just comfort-wise, than he did in week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But now you have your quarterback for the next 10 years, hopefully. But the reason you signed Kirk Cousins was because of yesterday. It was literally because of last night. Game tying field goal from Koo. Overtime win to Hodge. They had no timeouts. It was a crazy win. So before we get any further into today's video, if you guys enjoy, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. We try to post at least one Falcons video every single week. So hit that like button, hit that sub button if you haven't already. Let's try and get this video to 100 likes. That would mean the absolute world to me. The Falcons have been a really solid football team as far as roster construction, playmakers. Bijan Robinson last year, Tyler Algier before him, Drake London's a stud, Kyle Pitts, like you saw last night, is a stud. They've had a really good offensive line, especially a really good running offensive line. The Falcons have been a really competent team with a bunch of talent surrounding them the last couple of seasons. They're always in football games. Like, they've always been in football games. But now you feel like they're actually going to win these games because you have Kirk Cousins, one of the most reliable quarterbacks, honestly, in the NFL. He gets such a bad rap because more so in his time with Washington a long time ago, he just looked tense. He looked tight. He wasn't winning primetime football games. And, that has flipped. That narrative has flipped the last couple of years, the last 2 years specifically with the Minnesota Vikings. And now he just looks at ease. And people will still try to find ways to nitpick this, but you could nitpick this for both games, or both teams, sorry. And you could also nitpick every single game ever. The no face mask call. Well, that happens every football game, whether it's face mask, whether it's offsides, or the big one, pass interference. There's multitude of different plays every game that are just kind of a coin flip on, is it going to be called or is it not? So Tampa got some calls their way. Atlanta got some calls their way. Darnell Mooney dropped a big pass early on not early on in the game, right like 6-minute mark in the 4th quarter that would have set up a scoring drive. So there's a lot of nitpicking that I've seen, Kirk Cousins, well, he wasn't perfect. He threw an interception. It was on 4th and 15. It was in the final 2 minutes. They still had all 3 timeouts. They trust their defense. And also just in general, I think people overrate interceptions. If you're throwing the ball 58 times, I have a feeling one of those is not going to be a good throw, or one of those isn't going to go your way and you're going to throw an interception. So no nitpicking on Kirk Cousins last night. Hopefully 42 of 58, 509 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. I would like to see, I get it that Zach Robinson, the Falcons offensive coordinator, I get it. Kirk Cousins was throwing 9 yards per completion. So it was working. He threw for 250 yards in the first half. He threw for over 250 yards in the second half. That's the first quarterback ever to do that and throw over 250 yards in both halves, by the way, in a football game. But the thing with Kirk is he just knows how to win. And they're just keep giving him the ball. So I would like to see more Bijan Robinson. I would love to see more Tyler Algier. Bijan only ran 12 times for 61 yards, averaging a little over 5 yards per carry. The Falcons as a team only ran the ball 18 times for 73 yards, averaging 4.1 yard per carry. But you watch that game last night. Kirk's doing his thing. They're driving up and down the field. They're making completions. Guys are wide open. You want to ride the hot hand, and that's exactly what Zach Robinson did with Kirk Cousins. And in that final drive, that's exactly why. Drake London, huge, phenomenal game, especially as a fantasy football owner. I was really worried he was, out with a concussion early on in that first quarter, but that connection is there. Darnell Mooney, if you're a Bears fan, if you've been watching Bears games for the last couple of seasons, Darnell Mooney is a really talented football player. Justin Fields just couldn't really connect consistently with him, specifically last year. And so Atlanta signs him. And people kind of viewed that wide receiver room with the lack of depth. You have Drake London, you have Kyle Pitts, you have Bijan, you have Tyler Algier, you got some weapons. But people were concerned about Ray McCloud. People were concerned about Darnell Mooney. Even Kadero Hodge. I think Kadero Hodge averaged 16.6 yards per catch last season. And I think he had 25, 15 catches, something like that. I was just listening to a pod earlier this morning. The guy was like, that was his first ever NFL catch. I'm thinking, I think he's 29. I think he's almost 30. They've got a really deep, versatile wide receiver room. But the two things I was most excited about was it was Drake London and Kirk Cousins' breakout game together. 12 catches, 154 yards, and a touchdown. That's Drake London's a stud. That's the Drake London when you drafted Drake London. That's the type of game you were anticipating to see every other week. Darnell Mooney, 9 catches on 16 targets for 2 total touchdowns. That drop towards the end of the game was unfortunate, but it's going to happen. They still won the game. Kyle Pitts, finally, shout out. Seriously, Zach Robinson had such a great game plan heading into tonight's game, last night's game. 7 catches on 8 targets for 88 yards for Mr. Kyle Pitts. And then obviously the player of the game or the player of overtime, 2 catches for 67 yards, including the 45-yarder. Kadero Hodge for the touchdown. Ray McCloud, 6 catches, 66 yards. And then we saw 3 catches apiece for a total of 29 yards from Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. So win is a win, especially on a short week, especially a Thursday night divisional game against a red-hot Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a really solid, underrated defense. You're going to take this every day of the week, and you can sit here and nitpick the Saints game and say they shouldn't have won that game. You can nitpick this game and say they shouldn't have won this game, but they won both, and they're 3-2, and Kirk Cousins looks like Kirk Cousins. Drake London, Kyle Pitts look like those two players. This offense has finally clicked, and that should terrify not only the NFC South, but the rest of the NFL. So thank you guys so much for watching. This is seriously a game the Falcons have lost for the last 3 years. Thank you for watching. Hit that like button, hit that sub button. But guys, give me your thoughts on this Falcons win down below. Peace.